everybody.
Hello.
We are back.
Who are you?
I'm my name is Price,
Oh, that's cool. My name is Zach.
and we're
Cool.
here to talk about cartoons.
Yeah. Again. It's been a minute,
It's
but
been like what, 6 months?
maybe I don't really know. I don't watch our channel, so I don't keep up with it.
Yeah, we dropped off for a bit there, but it was always our intention to keep the podcast going, even though we only had 2 episodes originally.
Yeah.
But we have a little bit of a different setup this time around. If you can tell, my voice quality is a little bit higher than my boy Zach's.
It's not my fault. It's Discord's fault, we think, but no way to prove it. So this is
Yeah,
what we're dealing with right
the
now.
there's some kind of compression going on, and we can't really get it to sound right over
Yeah.
Discord. Originally, the original setup of the show is we were both in the same room, and we had our own microphone, but
For convenience sake, we live like a 45-minute drive from each other, so
yeah.
decided we would try this out just to get something out there. Because there's a show that we wanted to talk about after seeing something about it on Facebook, I think.
Well, I think the biggest draw for us, we're both music boys, and
Hmm.
the person writing the music is Jeff Rosenstock of Bomb the Music Industry and Jeff Rosenstock. He's a punk and I guess ska
Yeah,
guy.
punk and ska influence, mostly kind of like power pop with
Yeah.
some rock and punk influence in it now.
Yeah, I feel like the ska influence has kind of been down
Yeah.
less so recently, but he's a pretty damn good songwriter, and
Hmm.
we were curious to see how he would do an animated show, and we also like cartoons, so it was a good match for the podcast, especially considering our first podcast was about OKKO, which was a new show, I guess, about 6 months ago or whenever we last
Yeah.
were in our podcast kick. But essentially, we wanted to try a new show, and luck would have it, there were exactly 6 episodes out. And 6 is the amount that was out for OKKO when we watched it. So we decided
Hmm.
that it would be a good one to give a go.
Yeah, the exact same amount of content for the new Cartoon Network show. Sounded like a match made in heaven.
Yeah, so we gave it a shot. We watched them 6 episodes and the pilot, and now we're here. So general impressions. What did you think, Zach?
Uh, Overall, I enjoyed this show. As you pointed out, at least in the pilot, I started to pay more attention to it throughout the rest of the series, but it looks like they kind of cheapened it a little bit throughout the series, but they still look good as the backgrounds. The backgrounds in the pilot were really, really nice. It took me a minute to take another look at it. We had to click back through the episode because Price was like, "Did you see the backgrounds?" And I was like, "No, I didn't pay attention." So, very well lit, lots of contrast, cool stuff in that. And then in the actual episodes, they are a little more downplayed, but still nice. The backgrounds are very good.
Yeah, I we didn't actually discuss the downgrading, but yeah, the pilot was a lot better than the later ones, but it still looks really good, and it's understandable that in a full length show, you can't do
Yeah, when you've got to make more than one episode, you've got to have a way to keep them going along.
right, and especially like I was comparing it to Over the Garden Wall. Like I really think the backgrounds in the early part maybe less varied, but they were pretty much on
Hmm.
the same level of that kind of detail. But Over the
Yeah,
Garden
they were nice.
Wall is only 10 episodes, and this is however many it's going to be. So
Hmm.
it's understandable that they would want to cut some costs there and just like speed things along. Like most kids aren't going to notice anyway,
Yeah.
and it does look good. It doesn't
Hmm.
look bad. It's just a little bit less detailed than it was originally.
Yeah.
And I think with the art style of this show, it's like Rebecca Sugar's kind of look, but we've talked about like the Japanese influence of the show. I feel like the eyes are drawn in a way that's even more like early Dragon Ball stuff.
Yeah, especially like Craig's eyes. They kind of switch it up between some of the characters because JP just has dots, and
Right. And
I think
I feel like the character design is pretty varied, like more varied than I expected it to be based
yeah,
on it. I think they do a really good job of giving a lot of different features to different
like
people, and
shape profiles to the different
yeah,
characters.
and also different styles to the clothes, like
Hmm.
especially because it's dealing with like different cliques of kids.
Hmm.
So they make sure everything is reflective of the style, and they're really careful to make sure that every aspect of that person's personality revolves around that, in accordance with the kind of I feel like this show does a good job of capturing what it means to be a kid and having a specific identity around you.
Yeah, because the the kind of well, we haven't really talked about the world of the show, but the world of the show is basically that there are a bunch of kids in a rural kind of Midwestern or South. I was getting like Midwest between Midwest and Southeast kind of vibe from like Arkansas, that kind of area.
I was thinking like a little bit more north, but yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Yeah, they were all a lot of kids were wearing pants, so maybe a little further north. Maybe like I don't know what order the states are in going up from Arkansas. What would be
Yeah.
next?
I honestly I don't know. That might be from Arkansas, isn't that like
Like
Tennessee? All right. Well, this isn't a geography
this isn't a
podcast.
geography
Right.
podcast.
All right.
Anyway, and they all just go out into the woods after school and hang out and do whatever kid stuff that they do.
And it's a very vaguely kids next door ish setup where the kids have their own society kind of thing. There, it's not like us
It's
versus
much
them
more
as much.
realistic.
Yeah, it's a lot more grounded. And a lot of the basically the central theme of the show is about like what kids do when they go out and they role play and just play, what it
Yeah.
means to play as a kid with other kids and let your imagination run wild.
Hmm.
Basically, the I guess the three main characters of this show are more like fantasy driven,
Yeah.
generally
Because
speaking.
they have staves and swords, and then they have a JP who's just
Yeah.
kind of along for the
Yeah,
ride.
JP doesn't seem like, well, he doesn't really have much of a character yet. He's just there for comedic relief. He's a
Yeah.
big lug that isn't particularly intelligent, which is just kind of
He's got
like,
a good heart.
yeah, good heart, isn't particularly intelligent, and he has a lot of funny one-liners, I guess. But yeah, they haven't quite done too much with him yet. But I mean, it's only
Yeah.
6 episodes in. That's to be
Hmm.
expected. But
And
I,
he's the gag character. It's going to take them a little bit before they can transition to making him into more of a character after they get done introducing everybody else.
right. So let's talk about the main character, Craig.
Uh, there's not a lot to say. He's pretty low key. We haven't
Yeah,
seen a lot of his personality yet, but he's a good kid. He,
I think that's the main thing, is that he's just like a good boy, and
yeah.
he's not like a KO good boy or a Finn good boy. He's just like a good boy. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like it's not
It's not like an honor thing for him.
right. It's not like over the top either. He does his homework. He has to mention that at one point. He tries to do the right thing but doesn't always do it, etc.,
Hmm.
etc. He's just a good kid who tries his best and makes mistakes.
Hmm.
And that's really all there is to him for now. But I mean, it's enjoyable to see him interact with people. It's
Yeah.
even if he's not like a particularly interesting character by himself, I feel like he's still a good protagonist
Hmm.
for a show like this
Yeah.
specifically.
because it's all about kind of him and his group of friends interacting with the
Right.
other groups of kids
I guess
in Creek.
weirdly he's the straight man in a
Yeah,
way. He's the straight man definitely to Kelsey and JP at the very least because
yeah,
Kelsey is over the top in her fantasy
role playing.
delusions.
Yeah,
Kelsey often lapses into like mentally role playing herself as a paladin and incorporating that into her everyday life all the time. And then, yeah, so she kind of rounds out the three. Anything else you want to say about Kelsey?
she kind of gets the most characterization of the three so far, just because like that can be an easy storyline for them. Is something happens to upset her because she has like specific set of things that she kind of is about, and then Craig decides he's going to help out, and JP is going along with that.
She has a lot more character motivation
She
than JP at
likes
this
she
point.
likes reading fantasy novels. She cares about animals a good deal. She has a fondness for parakeets,
Yeah,
which
she
is
does
which
have a
that's a cute
parakeet.
little character design thing. Like she just always has a little bird on her head, and it's either just like sitting there or like it's in her
Hmm.
bun, and you can see its wings
Yeah,
sticking out.
a
It's really cute.
parakeet named Mortimer.
Yeah, but yeah, that's basically it to her. She's a fun character. Her sword, her weapon of choice as a paladin is like a plastic tube on a stick, and it makes a little whooshing sound like you're waving a little plastic tube around whenever she swings it, which is pretty fun.
Yeah,
A nice little
and then
touch.
Craig.
Sometimes it felt a little forced because she would like just like jab it forward and it would make that noise, which it wouldn't actually do that if you jabbed forward. You'd have to swing it.
Yeah, I suppose. But I feel like currently the main three are a little bit underdeveloped. In comparing the main three of Craig of the Creek and something like OKKO, I feel like they've taken their time with developing the main three at this point. Like, I still don't really completely have a grasp of who each of the characters are in terms of like what their overall development's going to be.
Yeah, and we don't have like a an overarching motivation for any of the characters, like how we do in OKKO, just from them wanting to be more powerful heroes.
Right. Yeah, I think that's something that they're definitely going to explore more over the course of however many episodes, but it's worth noting that it doesn't wow on that front in terms of
Yeah,
development. This is definitely like a more slice of life driven show. And there's not a whole lot of action.
no, not often.
Like it has its moments and it's well executed when it does happen, but I'd say less than Steven Universe.
Yeah, for the most part so far. Uh, but the biggest fight scene that we got was like Kelsey fighting Wilderness and her dog, and that was pretty cool. She got her sword bit, and then she had the divots in it, which was a cool little thing to do.
Right, and then you had the action sequence with the guy in um, the dump.
Oh yeah, that was good too.
Yeah, I mean
Forgot about that.
it's like little flashes. It's usually over pretty quick. It's not like
Hmm.
OKKO where it's a little bit more central to the appeal of the show,
Yeah,
and it's not as cartoony about it as Adventure Time, and then not as
hmm
elaborate with it as Steven Universe.
yeah.
So it's just kind of it's kind of in the middle, I guess. Maybe a little
It's
bit
just it's not as much
slow.
about it. It's about like really grounded reality kids, and I don't think they want to have just like regular old fourth and fifth graders whomping each other out in the woods. I don't think that's the message they're trying to send.
Yeah. Now that I think about it, yeah. Well, of those shows, this is the only one that doesn't have supernatural elements like at
Yeah.
all. And we were also comparing the show to Gravity Falls. Gravity Falls, of course, has a bunch of supernatural elements to it, but this is completely straight. It's just kids doing kid stuff and having overactive imaginations.
Yep.
So, what do you think of just the animation of the show?
Seemed smooth. Didn't notice any like cheap moments with the animation at all. It impressed me, I guess. I guess.
Yeah,
I guess. I guess. I guess.
I feel like I'm a little bit underwhelmed, but I feel like they flex in the moments that they need to. Like one of the
Yeah.
episodes where they are playing tag. The beginning of that episode has a lot of fun little visual gags, and I feel like they can shine where they need to, but
Hmm.
overall, it's not gonna like wow anyone.
Right. For the most part, it's on par or like maybe right above the average animation goodness from Cartoon Network,
Right,
but
I would agree.
it's not gonna like Price said, it's not gonna amaze you for the most part until it gets into one of those like surreal sequences from the tag episode, or if they revisit that later on. There weren't really any other animation sequences that really wowed us other than the more dynamic combative stuff though.
Right. And I mean, everything has that like appealing Adventure Time Steven Universe look to it. So, I mean, obviously it's not like it's nice to look at. It's
It doesn't feel as fresh as OKKO did, with kind of going way off model and having these
right.
weirdly proportioned characters.
I think yeah, I think that was that was the fun of OKKO is that you never know what it was going to look like episode to episode.
Yeah.
Like it just kind of like threw everything out the window. But this is again very grounded, which is admirable in its own way. But I think what I like about the show the most is just the concept, and I think that there's a lot of places they can go with it as long as the storytelling is strong enough. So let's talk about the storytelling.
Yeah. So whenever we first started watching it, there really wasn't a lot of overarching stories throughout the episodes. It was mostly just introducing us to the world and the dynamic of it. We were well, I was at least a little bit underwhelmed. Price said that he was content with it and saw the potential.
I
And
was content with the pilot. The first episode, I was underwhelmed.
yeah,
I thought the pilot was fine because that was the one that I thought was just going to establish things, and then the first episode also did the establishing thing and put the storytelling to the back burner.
right. But as it went along and we started getting introduced to more interesting areas and more stuff kind of started to happen in the episodes, it got a lot better. And I would say overall, we would probably rate, if we averaged out all of our rankings of the episodes, we'd probably end at like a 7.5, 7.75, maybe,
Yeah, somewhere
depending on how
between a
generous we were for the
7.5
later
and
episodes.
an 8 out of 10, that is.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed some of the later episodes. I felt like they were starting to hit their stride where they were able to balance the more slice of lifey episodes with, something that actually has a plot.
Yeah, it gets the pacing up, gets you more invested in watching the episode and seeing what the characters at least get into and how they interact with each other and other groups that they come across.
Right. And I think some of those early episodes, like, they just didn't have enough conflict to carry them. It felt a little bit like they had all these ideas for like what the show was, but they didn't quite find the right stories for it. But the thing is that, like, as I said before, this setting has so much potential for those kinds of things as long as they're willing to go there and
Oh, yeah.
do wild stuff. And the later episodes were starting to deliver on that. Again, capturing the idea of different cliques at school and different people who associate with different types of people and why they do that. And all of this enriches the Creek as its own little world.
What were some of your favorite cliques in the show, Price? This is a fun little thing to talk about.
Well, I related to the ninjas because I was a big Naruto kid.
Yeah, they were
When I
fun.
was 12. I thought they were fun. I liked the horse girls.
That was my favorite gag.
Like
Was the girl who didn't really want to be in the horse girl club, but she was just going along with it because she wanted friends.
Yeah, that was really funny.
You
Anyway,
had the biker gang.
the biker game was good.
They were
I
fun.
liked the trash kid. That wasn't really a
Yeah.
clique.
The
That was a
little
guy.
sequence of them gearing up their bikes to go to the junk pile was fun. Like they slapped the buddy pegs on. I forgot about buddy pegs.
I don't know what that is. I don't think I noticed.
Oh, well, there were things you could put on the back spoke of your bike. Well, it's not a spoke. What is that called? The back
Um,
axle equivalent. I don't know what it's called,
I
but it
don't
was
know.
like two little metal pegs that were textured, and you could have somebody stand on those and hold your shoulders, and you could have two people on a bike.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I never used them because I was scared because like that's you've got a wheel like a quick moving bike wheel like right under your genitals. So I was always too scared to try it, but I saw people do it.
So let's talk about Jeff Rosenstock's music a little bit, since that's the hook that got us into the show.
Yeah, I saw. I think it was either on Facebook or Instagram. I'm following him on both of those. So he posted that he was doing music for a show on Cartoon Network, and I was like, "Oh, dope. Okay, is he like doing a guest appearance or something?" Or because there was, Mike Kroll on Steven Universe a while back, but he was actually doing all of the compositions for it, and he's, like we said earlier, mostly known for punk rock and ska, but now getting more into power pop stuff. And his music does really well on this show, I think.
Yeah, it's not quite like an Ed and Nettie style off the wall kind of thing. It's just like a regular score using electric guitars and
Yeah,
other sound effects with it, and it works really well. It's
and even like synthesized horns and whatever else Jeff has on his MIDI keyboard.
yeah, I definitely heard some weird tom samples that he wanted
Yeah,
to use for the drums. But yeah, I thought that especially in the more driving moments, he really shines as his ability to make like really up tempo fun music for
hmm,
whatever situation. And I was at maybe even more so, I was surprised at the way he was able to do the more quiet moments on guitar as
yeah.
well. It really added to that kind of like kiddie atmosphere, I guess, in a way.
Hmm. And he does like kind of atmospheric stuff for some of the slower parts with basically just guitars, which is pretty cool as well, and kind of leads
Yeah,
to an interesting sound profile for those moments in the show.
because when you think of like a guitar score, you usually think of like maybe
Sonic Adventure
metal.
2.
Yeah, like power metal
Yeah.
or just basic hard rock where they don't really expound out upon it. I'm thinking of like the Pawn Stars background music, you know?
Oh, yeah,
Like
yeah,
really
yeah.
boring.
Hmm.
Obviously, it was just like them taking a bunch of session musicians and be like, "Go play some rock music. What do you think of
Yeah, go play like
rock?"
some bluesy rock stuff.
But this isn't like that at all. It feels like really individual to each episode, and I'm sure it was. Like
Yeah.
they plan out all of the beats and everything. It is interesting to hear like just a straight ahead rock musician transition to something like that. I've never
Oh, yeah.
heard anything quite like it,
No.
honestly. I mean, it's not like super adventurous, but I think it is very unique in the way it conveys the show.
Yeah, it's not groundbreaking, but it's a really nice touch, and it makes it stand out against other shows on Cartoon Network that have like similar animation styles and stuff.
For sure. Why don't
Maybe it'll
we?
get, some people to listen to Jeff Rosenstock after they check out Craig of the
Well,
Creek.
yeah, I was thinking like a kid watching this show and being like, "This theme song's so cool," or something like that, and they'd
Uh-huh.
start getting into Jeff Rosenstock, and then all of a
Yeah,
sudden, rock is alive again,
they go to Google and type in Jeff Rosenstein.
and all of a sudden they're awakened.
Hmm.
But yeah. Any closing remarks here? I think we've covered most of what we wanted to cover. We wanted to keep this episode fairly short.
Not particularly, I don't think. I'm excited to see more.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see what direction they kind of take it. I think we can kind of see what they're doing with it now. They're getting more into single episode plot driven stuff. Do you think that this is ever going to tackle like longer episodic storylines, a la your Steven
No.
universes or?
I really don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think it has the room to. I think that's
Yeah.
kind of what's expected out of Cartoon Network shows at some point now, but I don't think that this has the breadth of the world to create a conflict that would be able to span
Yeah.
over a long period of time.
Here's what I will say. I will say that I think it lends itself well to like maybe three-parters where it tells a story that's a longer form kind of thing, but it's like consecutive. It's not like building over however
Yeah.
much time. And I think they will build on certain things and like actually progress. But I don't think it'll be on a level of Steven Universe or anything like that.
Yeah, right now on a level of like deepness, there isn't really much to go off of. It's so far been pretty wholesome, pretty pure. Like how Steven Universe likes to go into a lot of like romantic kind of
Like
implications
yeah,
from the
and
storylines that it tells.
relationships
And this,
and gender
yeah,
politics and all
yeah,
sorts
and
of
this
stuff like that.
doesn't really have any of that. This is just about kids hanging out and playing make believe, which is refreshing.
I mean, I think it touches on elements of fandom in an interesting way.
Yeah,
I think that's kind of where it's heading. Maybe not heading, but I think that's one thing that it
maybe an
seems like
issue that it's looking to tackle.
well, yeah, just something that I feel like it's already touching on and probably wants to do justice and handle fandom in an intelligent way that isn't really being handled by live action stuff.
Right. As far as voice actors that you might know from this one, that's something, again, that we've never
Right.
touched on. We've got Terry Crews as Craig's dad,
Right.
and Phil Lamar as his older brother Bernard, who was Samurai Jack, and something else. I forget what he
Samurai
was.
Jack, huh?
Something else that was pretty well known, but don't worry about it. He's if you know Phil Lamar, then you'll know what I'm trying to think of. Yeah, I think that's basically it.
I mean, you mentioned earlier that most of the voice talent is pretty unknown or doesn't have like a lot of work, and maybe
Yeah.
we're wrong on that. Feel free to correct us, but yeah, it's interesting. It seems like a pretty fresh, maybe not fresh from an animation standpoint, but definitely fresh for what Cartoon Network's been putting out recently.
Right.
In that it is so grounded and yeah.
Almost Ed, Ed and Eddie-ish without
Yeah.
the absurdity of Ed, Ed and Eddie.
Yeah, take out the absurdity, and this is kind of what that's going for. All right, ending notwithstanding, I think we're good.
Yep.
All right, feel free to tell us in the comments which episode of the show is your favorite so far, and we will weigh in. We liked which episodes were your favorite, real quick.
The book one where Kelsey had to find out who had the book, because we got introduced to a lot of the groups. We got to see the Ninja Kids in that one. Horse Girls were in that one. There were good gags. It had probably the most, well, not the most interesting overarching storyline, but one of the better told ones.
Right. Yeah, I would totally agree. I think that the final book is probably the best episode of the first 6, and I would recommend that to people who are looking to get into the show. I would also recommend the pilot. I know you weren't as sold with it, but I would say that like watch the pilot and then watch episode 4, and that's pretty much the identity of the show as it is currently.
Watch the pilot for the backgrounds, watch that one for the characters.
Yeah. Well, all right. That's all for today's Cel-Outs podcast. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something maybe. We recommend the show. It's pretty good, and hopefully it'll get better.
That's good with me.
All right. See you.
Bye-bye.